Bonjour, mes amis. Welcome everyone this beautiful, bright Sunday morning to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. Whether you are here with us in Worship Hall or watching from wherever you may be, know that you are welcome. I'm the Reverend this congregation's lead pastor, and I'm thrilled to be with you on this first Sunday of April, Palm Sunday, and the Sunday before the return of our annual Easter egg hunt. Justine, can I call on you? Would you show your t-shirt off? Because this is what Unitarianism, Universalism looks like in real life. The first Palm Sunday was a riot. Let us never forget. Thank you, Justine. This morning we are joined by, in addition to Justine, our worship associate Susan, our interim music director Kirk, and our very own Three Rivers singers. I can't say anything right. We'll see how this day goes. I'm thrilled that while our Whole Lives class is downstairs this morning, our younger children are with us this morning. There may be some here and in the lounge as it suits their needs through the course of our time together this morning. So without further ado, let's begin by joining our voices in song. Please rise as you are willing and able as we sing We Are, number 1051 in our Teal hymnal together. We Are.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Susan, and I am pleased to serve as worship associate today. Whether you are taking part in this worship celebration from your home or wherever else you may be, whenever you may log on, you are welcome here. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all those with the will to understand, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. Do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch during this protracted pandemic. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. And if you are right here in Worship Hall with us this morning and you would like more information about FirstU, it is available from Dory at the welcome table at the back of the pews. Now here's Brent from our board to highlight today's announcements for us. Brent.
Well, we did it. At a special congregational meeting, last Monday, members of FirstU voted overwhelmingly to proceed with developing mixed affordable housing and Indigenous housing on this campus. This historic decision shows that FirstU truly knows how to live its values and cares about the future of our community. Well done, everyone. The Renewal Task Force has now launched its renewal fundraising project to pay for church improvements like better AV equipment, improved Wi-Fi, and to make those railings on our patios safer. One way you can donate is simply by an e-transfer to our finance manager, fm@firstunitarianottawa.ca, with renewal campaign in the message field. Also, the Renewal Task Force is giving away fabulous red stickers to show those who have filled in the volunteering survey on the renewal page of our website. Or you can fill in a paper survey available at the welcome table at the back. We thank you all for your help and support. The Truth and Reconciliation Group is hosting an event entitled Just Get Over It on Wednesday, April 12th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. via Zoom. This thought-provoking workshop is led by Indigenous storytellers and facilitators from Trent University's First Peoples House of Learning and helps the participants better understand why Indigenous people cannot simply just get over it. Tickets are free but limited. If you'd like to attend, please see the notice in the EUU, our weekly email newsletter. Finally, FirstU is hosting a talk from a teacher of Tibetan Buddhism, Lama Lanang Rinpoche from California. All those who are seeking their own spiritual path or want to learn more about peace in everyday life are welcome to attend. Please come and bring your friends. Admission is free. That's Wednesday, April 12th at 7 p.m. in person right here in Worship Hall. And now, Donna Bowen William Willer is here for our Environmental Action Group announcements.
Thanks, Brent. I'm Donna Bowen Willer, and bringing you some news from the Environmental Action Group. Many of you are aware that Sherry Watson passed away this past week. You may or may not know that among her many contributions to Ottawa First, she was co-chair of the Environmental Action Group. She was a valued leader in what she referred to as our EAG family. She was instrumental in the drive for us to encourage the congregation to choose the climate crisis as the present congregational focus, along with the motivation to take on the challenge of Green Sanctuary accreditation. Over the past 4 months of her illness, we've missed Jerry's presence tremendously and earnestly had hoped for her recovery. We're deeply saddened it is not to be. This morning, we'd ask you to go to the EUU and click over to the Climate Action page and allow us to share with you our tribute to Sherry, and also to see the many directions her mentorship has led the EAG. We're grateful for what Sherry gave us, and in her honor, we will continue to work for the future of our planet, doing our best to channel her persistent determination. Thanks.
Thank you, Donna. We encourage you to sign up to receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter. Check our Facebook and Instagram pages and our web pages for notices and updates. Our calendar continues to be as full as ever, though as global health challenges continue, many of our activities still take place online. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, and however you identify, today you are part of our spiritual community. Welcome.
Brent, Susan, Donna, thank you. To begin this morning's conversation on the arc of what faith communities like this one are called to do, we light our chalice with these words of thoughtful welcome from Marge Kipe. Even as we kindle our chalice to despair the night of all we do not know, may we remember that the dark has its own lights. We call them stars, and we steer our lives by them. Our chalice is lit. Come, let us worship together. And by worship, I mean enjoying a story. Jody?
If I can have anyone who's young or young at heart come and join me at the front, that would be great. So my story today is The Three Little Wolves and the Big Bad Pig by Eugene Travasas and Helen Oxenbury. Once upon a time, there were three cuddly little wolves with soft fur and fluffy tails who lived with their mother, and the first was black, the second was gray, and the third was white. One day the mother called the three little wolves around her and said, "My children, it is time for you to go out into the world. Go and build a house for yourselves, but beware of the big, bad pig." "Don't worry, Mother. We will watch out for him," said the three little wolves, and they set off. Soon they met a kangaroo who was pushing a wheelbarrow full of red and yellow bricks. "Please, will you give us some of your bricks?" asked the three little wolves. "Certainly," said the kangaroo, and she gave them lots of red and yellow bricks. So the three little wolves built themselves a house of bricks. The very next day, the big bad pig came prowling down the road and saw the house of bricks that the little wolves had built. The three little wolves were playing croquet in the garden When they saw the big bad pig coming, they ran inside the house and they locked the door. The pig knocked. The pig knocked on the door and grunted, little wolves, let me in." "No, no, no," said the three little wolves. "By the hair on our chinny chin chins, we will not let you in. Not for all the tea leaves in our china pot." "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down," said the pig. So he huffed and he puffed and he puffed and he huffed, but the house didn't blow down. But the pig wasn't called big and bad for nothing. He went and he fetched his sledgehammer and he knocked that house down. The three little wolves only just managed to escape before the bricks crumbled, and they were very frightened indeed. "We shall have to build a stronger house," they said. Just then they saw a beaver who was mixing concrete in a concrete mixer. "Please, will you give us some of your concrete?" asked the three little wolves. "Certainly," said the beaver, and he gave them buckets and buckets full of messy, slurry concrete. So the three little wolves built themselves a house of concrete. No sooner had they finished than the big bad pig came prowling down the road and saw the house of concrete that the little wolves had built. They were playing battledore and shuttlecock in the garden, and when they saw the big bad pig coming, they ran inside their house and shut the door. The pig rang the bell and said, "Little frightened wolves, let me come in." "No, no, no," said the three little wolves. "By the hair on our chinny chin chins, we will not let you in. Not for all the tea leaves in our china pot." "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down," said the pig. So he huffed and he puffed and he puffed and he huffed. But that house just wouldn't fall down. But the pig wasn't called big bad for nothing. He went and he fetched his pneumatic drill and smashed that house down. The three little wolves managed to escape, but their chinny chin chins were trembling and trembling and trembling. "Something must be wrong with our building materials," they said. "We have to try something different." But what? At that very moment, they saw a flamingo coming down, pushing a wheelbarrow full of flowers. "Please, will you give us some of your flowers?" said the little wolves. "With pleasure," said the flamingo, and she gave them lots of flowers. So the three little wolves built themselves a house of flowers. One wall was of marigolds, one of daffodils, one of pink roses, and one of cherry blossoms, and the ceiling was made of sunflowers, and the floor was a carpet of daisies. They had water lilies in their bathtub and buttercups in their refrigerator. It was a rather fragile house, and it swayed in the wind, but it was very beautiful. Next day, the big bad pig came prowling down the road and saw the house of flowers that the three little wolves had built. He rang the bluebell at the door and said, "Little frightened wolves with the trembling chins, let me come in." "No, no, no," said the three little wolves. "By the hair on our chinny chin chins, we will not let you in, not for all the tea leaves in our china pot." "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down." But as he took a deep breath, ready to huff and puff, he smelled the soft scent of the flowers. It was fantastic. And because the scent was so lovely, the pig took another breath, and then another. Instead of huffing and puffing, he began to sniff. He sniffed deeper and deeper until he was quite filled with the fragrant scent. His heart grew tender, and he realized how horrible he had been. Right then, he decided to become a big, good pig. He started to sing and dance the tarantella. At first, the three little wolves were a bit worried. It might be a trick, but soon they realized that the pig had truly changed, so they came running out of the house. They started playing games with him. First, they played Pig Pog, and then Piggy in the Middle, and when they were all tired, they invited him into the house. They offered him tea and strawberries and wolfberries and asked him to stay with them as long as he wanted. The pig accepted, and they all lived happily together ever after.
Each week we pause in our time together in recognition of both the joys and the sorrows in our lives and across the globe. We honor our celebrations and challenging by placing a stone in a bowl of water. As the ripples extend outward to the edge of the bowl, we can easily imagine them extending out through our pews and out the windows into the larger world. Joys. Let's start with joys. A stone for one word, April. And a stone, if not of joy, certainly of appreciation and recognition that the Vatican has formally repudiated the long-standing doctrine of discovery, the religious foundation for political colonization. I'll have more to say about this later this morning, but it deserves its own stone of recognition. A stone also this morning for those who lost their lives this week along the St. Lawrence River trying to enter the United States. May we never forget that the dividing lines between peoples can often cut as sharply as knives. And a stone for a loss in our community. After a long illness this last Monday morning, we lost one of our most beloved leaders, Sherry Watson. As I hope you know, a celebration of her life will take place here in this space tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. The service will be live streamed on the congregation's YouTube channel for those who cannot attend in person. And as always, a final stone for the joys and sorrows, the challenges, whatever it is that resides still remaining in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. A caring card for Sherry's sister, Gail, is at the back of the hall for us to sign at the Caring Network table. Signing a caring card is a way, even if you didn't know Sherry or know her sister Gail, it's a way of our expressing our appreciation and gratitude for all Sherry did for this congregation, and she did much indeed. Let us gather now in a moment of silence, stillness, and reflection before Kirk brings us together once again through the gift of music.
This morning's reading is by Charles F. Flagg. In this space, made sacred by the aspirations and fears of so many who have been here before us, and whose still spirits transform the very air. Here at the intersection of past and future, we ponder the imponderables, ask the questions the gods may ask, and hear the answers never given, the silent whispers of the untold wisdom of all ages, the deepest revelations known more to open hearts than only rational minds, the quiet heroism, the desperate courage, the flashing insight, the touching cares, and the caring touch. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The remarkable becomes sublime. The shallow and the sham vanish as a dream at daybreak. Beyond the realm of superstition, beyond the world of the easy supernatural, beyond the simple answers that choke the seeker's mind, we find a world of mystery and wonder, where the real is made more real, and the unreal dissipates like smoke in the wind. Here, as we approach the very bedchambers of the gods, may we know that here, it is here, we know that truth resides. And thus we find strength to face our days, to light the darkness, the dayspring of hope and wisdom and goodness begins here in this trusted, sacred place.
When three rivers converge, how can the result be anything short of beauty? Thank you. Don't let anyone convince you that religions don't change. Not that you would. The news this week that the Vatican has repudiated the doctrine of discovery is all the evidence we should ever need that religions, Western, Eastern, and indigenous, are human creations, and like us will inevitably change over time. Those who have been paying close attention to the ways, means, and effects of colonialization know that in the 16th century, the Vatican issued a series of declarations, papal bulls, that allowed, and here I quote the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, Christian empires to invade and subjugate non-Christian lands and peoples and sovereign nations, to impose Christianity on those populations and claim their resources. This week, as I trust you know, the Vatican didn't just rescind this doctrine, it formally repudiated an over 400-year-old foundation of Western theology and law. If Pope Francis, may he be well, be remembered for anything beyond washing the feet of members of his flock, it will be for this. I've spoken before of the lens I find helpful when looking at over time, the arc of things, of what is transient and what may be seen as permanent. Now, I need to admit that even what seems permanent may change over time, but unless we're talking about the law of gravity, well, we're talking about human constructs, and they will change, evolve, alter over time. But I digress in that. This morning I want to talk to you about the arc of our faith tradition, what we're called to do. No little topic that. And our liturgy this morning, our hymns, reading, and story comprise a wide range of subject and tone. It might be fitting to set a more historical narrative to begin with singing the hymn from which I've taken the title of this reflection, Forward Through the Ages, a Unitarian Universalist recasting of the 19th century classic Onward Christian Soldiers. But I felt the tempo of that song would serve us better towards the end of our time this morning. And if there ever was a hymn that exemplified the goals of the doctrine of discovery, it was Onward Christian Soldiers. I am grateful for the wisdom of our elders in tinkering with the gifts of the past. It can be argued that our faith is a young one. The former merger of the Unitarians and Universalists didn't happen until the fall of 1961, which is really not that long ago. And the arrival or formation of Unitarianism and Universalism, theologians debate on how much our faith was formed on this continent and how much was brought to our shores. But each of those traditions traces its formal roots no further back than the 15th century, still not all that long ago in historic terms. That said, the attitudes and approaches of our tradition go back, I am sure, before recorded history. Theologically, if not philosophically, we can reach back to Origen of Alexandria, who lived in the 2nd and 3rd centuries of the Common Era. But let's leave Origen for another day. This morning, I want to jump ahead a bit to tell you a story of a 16th century heretic before talking about what might lie ahead for us. Yes, that may all seem a bit ambitious for one Sunday morning, but we'll give it a start at least. Are your seatbelts fastened? All right. You guys say yes quicker than any other congregation I know. I really appreciate that. And the reason is this. We're going to jump in here, and it's going to be jumping into perhaps obscure regions. You've likely heard of the fictitious character Pinocchio. Okay, a laugh, that's fine. Have any of you heard of a real-life person named Menocchio? Oh, good. Menocchio is the nickname of a 16th century Italian miller named Domenico Scandella. Now, as far as I know, he's only been written about in one modern history, and only because records of his not one but two trials before the Inquisition were maintained by the Office of the Holy Order. If Menocchio ever heard the term Unitarian, let alone Universalist, it would have been as a derogatory description. The word Unitarian was used as a mild theological curse word at first. Unitarians claimed it later, much like the term gay. These are how things often move in the world. What is first meant with a negative is then claimed as a positive. Anyhow, Menocchio likely never heard the word Unitarian or the word Universalist. He was neither a Unitarian nor a Universalist in how we understand those terms now, but he was someone who thought his own thoughts, even if he may have been a little or a lot long-winded about it. He would extol his thinking in the company of his parish priest, his wife, his 7 children, and about anyone else he could get to listen for any length of time. Everything I know about Menocchio, or Domenico Scandella, comes from the historian Carlo Ginzburg's book about him titled The Cheese and the Worms, the Cosmos of a 16th Century Miller, published in '92. Ginzburg found the Scandella's story, Menocchio's story, deep in the Vatican archives. Menocchio was born in 1532 in Montereal. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing the Italian of that. It's a small village north and a little east of Venice, just south of the foothills of the Italian Alps. He ran the mill in his village and at least one other mill in a neighboring hamlet. By the time he was 50, he was mayor, though it wasn't clear if he was elected to that position or it was just it was just his turn to serve in that capacity. While Menocchio was literate, he represents a blending of the oral and written traditions. What makes him interesting, more than just his nickname, was how important religious truth was to him and how audacious about it he could be. After too many arguments about the teachings of the church with his parish priest, Menocchio began taking confession in a nearby village, probably where one of his other mills was. He would say that he didn't believe that the Holy Spirit governed the church, adding, "Priests want us under their thumb just to keep us quiet while they go about and have a good time." He believed, furthermore, that to blaspheme against the saints was not a sin, though to do so against God was. He said, "Everyone has a calling, some to plow, some to hoe, and I have mine, which is to blaspheme." Woof! I've known congregants, some of you a little bit like Menocchio, and while I may curse them privately, I hope privately, for being troublesome, I love them for being who they are all the more. Still, those comments of his reveal more of Menocchio's cockiness and little of the substance of his thinking. Let me cut to the chase. During his trial before the Inquisition, having been brought before them based on allegations of heresy from the very same priest he had stopped confessing to, let that be a lesson to you, Minocchio summed up his theology in the following two statements. I say it is a greater rule to love one's neighbor than to love God. And also, God is one, and he is the world. Humanism and pantheism alive and under threat at the close of the 16th century. As you might imagine, his efforts to convince the inquisitor that to blaspheme is not sinful because it only hurts oneself and not one's neighbor did not improve his chances. Still, he was able to talk his way out of his first trial before the Holy Order, but he couldn't stop thinking and telling the truth as he saw it, and before long he was brought to Rome a second time and was eventually burned at the stake at the turn of the 17th century. Minocchio's story reminds us of what it is too easy to forget these days, namely how serious a business the search for religious truth has been over the ages. The account we have of his life is an example of what is known as microhistory, granular stories that illuminate parts of a much larger whole. The roots of what we now know as Unitarian Universalism go back to the dawn of history. In comparison, Minocchio's story, as I said before, is quite recent. There have been countless advocates such as Minocchio over the ages, women as well as men who advocated or simply lived out a life-supporting faith rather than succumb to a regimented, controlling one. What I wonder about, I should say, is how his story might have been different if there had been even a modicum of institutional support for Minocchio's views. Might some of the rougher edges of what he proposed have been polished a bit? Might some of his inherent humanism, that it is a greater rule to love one's neighbor than to love God, have ended up holding more sway? In any case, we here today, and those watching, and among our sibling congregations, are the theological descendants of those who held a neighborly faith rather than those who favored professions of faith more than faith-inspired actions. Recently, I came across and read an essay titled, Are We Outgrowing the Need for Church?, written by Meadville Theological School social ethics professor Anna Garland Spencer. In her address presented to our gathering of our tradition's clergy, she talks about how church-going had been much more common in preceding years, how the distractions of the age have led people of all walks of life to think of the institution of the church as no longer necessary, how the world of nature is so inspiring in its own to cause many to find church-going redundant at best. She argues that faith traditions matter for those who have lost their sense of being part of the sacred, seeing themselves small and insignificant against the backdrop of things, the world, the universe. She continues that communities of faith are crucial to help people keep hope alive, and concludes with a vision of faith communities that continue to create places that rival sacred forests and grandeur, where quiet can be experienced and daring for justice cultivated. Oh, and did I mention that Spencer was writing in 1929? While elements of life and thought will inevitably change, they also cycle around. Less is entirely new that we might normally think. And as much as I appreciate her keen eye and poetic understanding, I have to say that Spencer misses an important point. When people gather in faith communities, the whole is more than the sum of the parts. Institutions, communities of faith can do things that individuals, as motivated as they may be, simply can't do. This faith community knows this. Together, you gave sanctuary, not just once, but twice. None of us, as capable as we are, could have done that alone. And you stayed in it for the long haul each time. For over a year and a half, someone stayed in this church every single night to witness and make sure that the authorities didn't come to an empty house. We were here to protect two people in need of sanctuary, in need of refugee status. More recently, on Monday night, as Bren mentioned earlier, members of this congregation voted to cede some of our land back to the indigenous people of this continent by a 98% vote. Overwhelming. Land that will be used for affordable housing just next door. No other congregation has done that before. No other congregation. A new chapter in the life of this community has begun. After we moved from Elgin Street downtown to this space, within 15 years, we were making plans to build Unitarian House. I can see the corner of it through the window. We didn't know exactly what would happen when we leased the land to Unitarian House, now the preeminent senior living facility in town. You didn't know just what would happen when you opened this building for sanctuary for those two people in need of refugees. And we don't know now just what will happen in the years to come as we prepare to welcome new neighbors. And if you have a working and reliable crystal ball, what's the phrase? Please speak now or forever hold your peace. In fact, it may be too late. In the months and years to come, making space and beginning to live with our new neighbors, we will stumble at times, we will say the wrong thing, we will misstep. And I expect we'll be forgiven. We'll need to learn how to share space with folks who have different cultural understandings and expectations than ours, than what we might hold. The thing is that while that decision, our decision, may seem bold to us now, it likely won't seem so bold 25, 50, or 100 years from now. And that's frankly as it should be. The work of those years from now will be different than the work at hand for us today. Religions change because the best people keep striving for more. We always have. We always will. So let's get to it, my friends. Let's get to it. May it be so. Amen.
This congregation has a long history of care, vitality, and bringing people together to move the arc of justice forward. We have been able to live into our hopes and dreams because of the generosity of those within and beyond this community. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or anywhere else, you are part of this community. To make a gift in support of the work of this congregation, you don't need to use the baskets that are being passed among the pews. Wherever you are invited to go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how to make a donation or to keep up with your pledge. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate the gifts to the work of this community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. And now, please rise as you are willing and able to join in singing Forward Through the Ages, hymn number 114 in the gray hymnal, number 114. Yes, this is an adaptation of Onward Christian Soldiers. If you need to put on your theological translation cap, now is the time.
Thank
Please be seated. Before we begin to close this time of worship and reflection, a reminder that coffee hour will resume in Fellowship Hall immediately after the service. For those watching from home, an informal online fellowship hour will begin at noon. You can find the Zoom web link on our website or in the EUU. And also, leafy greens, courtesy of the good folks of Ajaski, are available for those who would like in the Grow Towers in the old volunteer room just off Fellowship Hall. As we prepare to extinguish our chalice, let these additional words from Marge Kipe guide us forward. Here, may we ever grow more aware of the gifts we have, aware of the gifts we are, aware of the blessing we may together give to the world. Among them our unbounded way of pursuing you, God within us, God beyond us, ground of our being and becoming. Here may we grow in your embrace and you in ours. Here may we grow a world of peace and love, freedom and justice, and become it. This morning's chalice is extinguished, that the spark of our connections and faith remain. Kirk, Three Rivers, will you bless us once again? As we prepare now to leave this space and time, may our hearts remain open and our minds remain as clear as sunshine in early April. We are people of both reason and heart, of both memory and hope. May we also always remain people of love, providing a place in this world for our spirits, a place best called home. As now we return to the challenge of helping the world come alive in love, let us go forward in peace, my friends. Go in peace.